This time you have to hit.
See the green stack here.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the fourth match of the Mario Kart Wii World Cup play-ins. I'm Scoped, and I will be your caster once again today. And we have quite the match for us today between currently the top two seeds of the play-ins right now, between Asia, currently 2-0, and Nordic 1-0 after their dominant win versus the Lusophone Alliance last week. Quite the important match for both teams, and also for Spain. If Asia wins, they're guaranteed in playoffs, and Nordic will have to win versus Spain in order to make it to the playoffs. Otherwise, they will have to get through to point differential. And if Nordic wins, Spain has to win both matches versus Nordic and Lusophone Alliance in order to make it through. But they'll also have to beat Asia through the point differential. So overall, pretty important match for both teams and for Spain. As a whole, let's go right ahead and present the lineups while we're waiting for the room to fill. Starting with Nordic, who are running the exact same lineup that they've run versus the Lusophone Alliance last week. So we have Lonnie, Theodore, Arvo, Hedwig, Wexos. Quite the well-balanced team overall. Lonnie has been quite the mid-pack presence overall during the Lusophone Alliance match. It managed to head out quite a few people, just really make a big impact there. Theodore, Arvo, and Hedwig were all pretty much either making clutch plays themselves or were in the front. Hedwig was quite the menace on the Daisy there, especially on some specific tracks, managing to really break away. And Wexos so far showing a lot of promise bagging. Obviously, we expected as such, probably one of the strongest baggers in the play-ins so far. But yeah, considering their dominant showcase last week, that we are expecting quite the show from them. But Asia is definitely no slouch either, having won both of their matches so far versus both the Lusophone Alliance and Spain. And it is actually the first match of two of the players on this squad. It will be the first match of Fire and of AZN. You can go ahead and switch to the lineup. Thank you. So yeah, the lineups that Asia will be running against their rivals in the plane so far are MHS, Monty, AZN Fire, and Josh bagging. MHS and Monty showing quite a bit of promise. Monty throughout both of his matches, and MHS for the match versus the Lusophone Alliance, as mentioned previously. Fire and AZN are not new necessarily. They're both pretty experienced players, but it will be their first match for this World Cup. Fire has a lot of synergy with AMHS. They're playing for the same GSC team in Vehemence in D3, nothing to scoff at. And AGN is a pretty well-known player in the community by this point, playing currently in D4 and no problem. So overall, I'm expecting quite the match between these two teams. Just overall, all possibly something coming down to the last GP, as we've seen it happen before. For example, with the match between Asia and Spain. So it should be a pretty interesting match overall. Not exactly. Actually, I'm informed. My apologies. I have been informed that Josh won't actually be the one bagging today, but it will be Nago. So Nago, I do not believe has the bag so far for Asia. Not in the World Cup at the very least. Nope. Granted, then again, Asia do have a lot of baggers so far, so not surprised to see them switch them around. That is one of their many benefits. They are able to just switch around quite a bit. With having such a big region, there's definitely an advantage in that. That's for sure. But yeah, they have quite the roster depth, so I'm not surprised to see this switch late into the whole process. Not exactly sure how many people are in the room just yet. We're gonna have to see. But regardless, we should have still a bit of time to discuss the whole World Cup as a whole. Of course, the plans, once again, for those that are not aware, are just a small group so far that's being decided between seed 15 and seed 18, just trying to figure out which of the top two seeds of that group will end up in the group stage. So far, Asia and Nordic are the two teams that are pretty far in the lead, simply because Nordic has, by this point, already an 196-point lead. So in terms of point differential, if it comes down to a tie when it comes to the head-to-head, they definitely have the advantage in that regard. And Asia have won their matches convincingly so far by both 40 and 70 against both Spain and the Lusophone Alliance, respectively. So the only thing they're missing so far is just this win against Nordic to really cement themselves as the top seed in this Plains bracket, and possibly a menace to watch out for potential upsets going into the group stage. We'll have to wait a little bit, unfortunately. I do not believe that the last few matches of the Plains are scheduled fully just yet, so we'll have to keep you guys updated. Make sure to join the Mario Kart Wii World Cup Discord if you can, just to keep update on everything, know when we're going live with these matches. Always nice to see you guys get more and more interested into this whole competition. We do have 7 in the room currently, so it shouldn't take too long for us to go ahead and start. Oh, apparently a bit of delay simply because of MHS's Wii crashes, but it should be fine now. We should be able to start whenever. But yeah, both of these teams overall, I'm really excited to see. Funnily enough, some teams in the group stages are already looking at what potential Plains teams they could be facing, and Asia is a name that comes up quite a lot simply due to roster depth and overall the fact that they come in from the Plains means that they've had already a bit of experience in the World Cup stage, so they'll come in pretty hot going into the first couple of matches and can definitely catch some teams off guard for sure. Before we go into the match, I do want to talk about the groups a little bit, simply because I've had the pleasure of interviewing some of the team leaders, which hopefully should be a public document sometime soon. But a lot of them have had thoughts on their current group so far, and it's been really interesting to talk about them as a whole. Benelux is really excited about their group from the looks of it, both having to face India and Ireland, which they're pretty excited to face as well. But just overall, a lot of teams really satisfied with their groups, really satisfied with the level of play overall in this World Cup, having pretty tight seedings overall, and some of the quote unquote like lower seeds in the bottom 8 are still really feared. Latin America has also been an option to watch out for in a lot of cases as a potential threat for upsets, as they have quite the deep lineup. So they'll be definitely a team to watch out for when it comes down to it. But so far, we're still waiting on the Plains and on the last teams to get into each group so far. I have been informed that luckily my co-caster shouldn't shouldn't be too far away. Ornan will have I will have the pleasure of to cast this match with Ornan whenever he joins the call. So thankfully, this little delay in the room is a little bit of a blessing in disguise. So I do not have to pad this out for a lot longer. But yeah, regardless, a lot of teams really satisfied with their group so far. A lot of teams looking forward to it. There definitely seems to be an increase of motivation from a lot of teams. India, for example, India is a big example of that. I have noticed. Well, I've talked with Emil P about India as a whole, and he's told me that they've been a lot more, and they've been anticipating this World Cup a lot more after the first outing, just getting outed in the semis during the first outing. I would like to mention that's nothing to scoff at. And since they had their finals with IG with 3 of their main lineups, so I'm expecting a lot out of India in general. But yeah, a lot of teams really to watch out for this year. Really excited about this overall. Okay, Wex, and we do have the Nordic bagger joining, so we should get started soon the moment that we have Naga joining for Asia. As for the prediction for this match, obviously I will choose not to gamble for the sake of integrity, but I do expect a close match. I do think that Nordic definitely have their chances. Seeing the level of play that we've seen out of them versus Lusophone Alliance, Asia definitely can give them can give them quite the fight. But my bet would be on a win by around 20 to 30 for Nordic if I had to choose. Granted, I do think that that both teams absolutely have their chances, and I am hoping for quite the tough match overall. Oh, never mind. I suppose my sources were wrong. Josh will be the one that ends up bagging for this. Oh no, Josh is running. My mistake. Josh is running in 8th, and Nago will be bagging this. So, wait. I didn't realize who Josh is replacing running then. Probably. And my apologies. He will be replacing Monty actually. So Monty, after playing the first 2 matches, actually won't be the fourth runner for this, but it will instead be Josh, who has already ran a match for Asia this tournament, and it was against Spain, scoring a pretty respectful 112 against them. So I'm expecting a pretty good performance out of him. Good to know. Once again, showing the resourcefulness and roster depth of Asia, having players that can both be good at bagging and running, depending on availability. So should be getting started anytime soon. There's just a small debate going on about a potential reset being on for Asia due to the little bit of delay, but hopefully it shouldn't matter in the long run. After 2 resets, a team does take a -20 penalty, so hopefully it won't come down to that. It's always a bit disappointing when the results of a match depends on something like a late penalty, but we do have to keep those rules in somehow to try and not make sure these little pre-matches take forever. Lord knows it is killing my voice, but we'll get started right away. Once again, won't be surprised to see the classic DDR and Sherbet going on from both teams. I don't think either team has been going for anything really surprising in terms of like overall track picks. Unless I'm mistaken, there might have been a Rainbow Road actually. I do believe a Plains team picking that, but the specifics are unfortunately escaping me at the moment. But either way, should be a pretty fun match to watch regardless. Since Monty is not streaming, I'm unfortunately not certain about what our POVs are for this match. I'll have to check really quickly, but regardless, we do have Hedwig, that much is certain, but I should have Josh as well, but we do have Arvo and as well, and Josh for the POV. So overall, should have quite the nice set of POVs overall to follow this race in its entirety. Unfortunately, not reading Japanese, but Maple Treeway will be chosen. Pretty expected 1-3 pick. We should be following Hedwig at the start into the 5th spot. Trying to contest Theo, but AZN staying in the front so far. I do believe MHS shroomed up as well. Hedwig soon after. A lot of nanas flying, but Hedwig will come out on top ahead of MHS there. We should probably switch POVs, should probably be running for at least a little bit. If nothing happens, actually a lot of people on his tail so far, and I do see at least 2 members from Asia, Theodore being the only one so far being able to protect him. I wonder if any shrooms are being held for the cut. Could definitely impact Hedwig's first place here, possibly choosing to back in front of the cut. I do see Theo right behind him. Will anyone take the cut? Thankfully, no one. Hedwig should be able to keep his first place. Fib dodge on the side of Theodore. A lot of pressure on Hedwig so far, with Theodore trying to catch up as much as possible, but the jack is failed. That is a lot of time lost, and then bumped into a ground red, and Asia now in so much control of the race. MHS is T-Powered, but that is a lot of bumping going around, and Arvo is off. It should be into 8th here. Josh, unfortunately, getting a bit bullied by the Wiggler there, holding his star. I do believe that baggers are still sitting at the set, so probably just holding just in case they do pull. But so far, Nordic now in bottom 2 after this entire mess, really, that started the Hedwig, unfortunately bonking the wall on the cut. We do see Lonnie in 4th place, so Asia is at the very least 2-3-5-6 in a winning spot so far. One of the baggers just went off, should be shockless for now, unless the bagger at the set suddenly pulled. Josh going into his star, not wanting to risk a Nordic shock in the cannon there. No shock being pulled so far. Arvo and Hedwig both going into the cannon. Are we going to see a late shock? We won't. Asia should be able to get a pretty good race out of all of that. Powell going on in 8th. Is Josh off? Thankfully not. But unfortunately, we do not have any POVs in the front, so we're not exactly sure what's going on. And we know that someone is gone in first by this point, but we do see Asia. Lonnie still in 4th, so you gotta hope for Asia that they're able to get a 1-3-5-6 out of this after the whole fiasco, so to speak, at the start of this race. Unfortunately, we're a bit in the dark. Actually, Lonnie, I do believe, managed to head out Fire or Fire and AZN, maybe getting into the front there. Possibly top 2, bottom 2 for Nordic. Unfortunately, not sure. The unfortunate part is that all 3 of our POVs were into bottom 3 there, so we don't unfortunately have any news so far. That is the one unfortunate part about not having every POV out there, but we'll have to see. Overall, pretty unfortunate for Nordic, all things considered. They were in a pretty decent spot, but Hedwig, unfortunately, cracking under the pressure there, going a bit too tight on the jack. But thankfully, Lonnie did manage to head out AZN and Fire and gets up into 2nd there. So top 2, bottom 2 for Nordic, winning race even after that little mess up. But all things considered, that is possibly your most important match of the play-in. So a bit of pressure is expected. Nothing to worry about. It is only the first race after all. Hopefully, we won't need to. Hopefully, there won't be any potential misplays going any further. But it should be a win by around 5 or so, given the bagger points. Something along should be a win around 5 or so. Unfortunately, I do believe that the table. I don't know if the table bot is still down. It has been a little bit of an issue for the past week or so during scrims and all that. But I do believe it is still gone. But thankfully, we do have some staff on the side able to correct that for us. So Nordic win this first race by 3 thanks to the bagger points, and they do get their pick in DDR. Pretty expected for top 2, bottom 2. Bottom 2 is just able to get some shrooms really quick, make the cut. Top 2 can just make the sand hop, try and get in the front early. Let's follow Arvo's POV really quickly. One of the bottom 2 to make sure to see if he pulls anything really good. Unfortunately, it's a single red, so that's nowhere near enough. But we do see one of Asia trying to, I believe, AZN going for the sand hop and not managing to really make a dent in the top 2. But Josh shrooming up to carry on that legacy. So 1-3-5 for Nordic so far, with Arvo holding this triple shroom, should be able to go for Ultra and get into a top 2 spot fairly easily. Nana being dodged by everyone so far. 2-4 on the side of Asia. I do think that Fire should have shrooms as well, considering that no item is being chained. So we should see 2 Ultra Takers here, and it is the case. Actually, Josh, I believe, failed the Ultra, so unfortunately, Arvo is going to be alone in there, going to be able to get into that top 2, but MHS taking the Golden Ultra right behind him, gets into first, but that Fib being held by Theo. Unfortunately, it's getting dropped, and it's getting dropped right on Arvo's head, so unfortunately, that 2-3 becomes a 2-4 really quickly, and Theo also gets hit out, or fails the, unfortunately, could also be a failed wall glitch, so it is top 2 on the side of Asia, trying to counteract that first race on the side of Nordic. That red could do some damage here, depending on what items have been pulled, and it does hit out MHS, doesn't break on the wall. Fib is also dodged, but another member of Asia right behind Arvo. It is AZN, and he does bump him there. A lot of time lost at shock, negating some of it, but we do see Nordic, great Nordic shock on their side, dodging both Theo and I do believe, unfortunately, could not quite see who else was it. Lonnie into the top 2 there with a star and a mega, but Josh and AZN gonna try and disrupt that top 2, not willing to let that Maple Treeway race repeat itself. We'll have to see if they can do it, but Nordic, they already have a pretty big lead right now, and Hedwig right behind them. Josh is trying to back him out, but not managing it so far. Theo takes the shroom cut there at the end. Hedwig is in a mega, can maybe pass Josh at the end there. Red is going to be thrown. That's going to come down to lag. I'm unfortunately not sure of whether or not Josh held his spot there, but it should be top 2-4 or top 2-5 on the side of Nordic. Another good race, but this time it's on the back of a beautiful shock by Wexos. Gets two dodges in a star and a mega, and is just able to give Nordic such a huge break at the end of this race. Arvo, unfortunately, tried to make a dent into that top two at the start of lap 3, but my apologies. Unfortunately, that bump hitting him out quite a bit, but it is going to be top 2-4 on the side of Nordic. Another huge race from them, or much better race at the very least. So now they're just able to solidify their small lead. It should be a win by around 10 at the very least, if I'm not mistaken. But regardless, great start from Nordic. Good shock by Wexos, and hopefully Asia will be able to, at the very least, come back by the end of this. At the end of this GP, it has been 2 picks in a row for Nordic, so hopefully a small reprieve on the side of Asia with that Sherbet Land pick. We'll have to see which side Mr. Bean favors this time. But overall, I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with Nordic's performance so far. A lot of their players have just been able to get into the top and for most of the time stay up there unless there's been a few hits on the side of Asia. Both sides really going at it so far, but unfortunately for Asia, it's going to be 3 in a row with BCW being selected this time. I am curious to see whether how consistent Hedwig is on the Ultra. We'll have to keep them in mind when it comes down to that. Follow them from the start of the race. As expected, Nordic going for the classic top 2-4 strat of denying right side box, but triple reds in second. That's definitely a nice pull to have. Hedwig should be able to get that top 2 secure, but immediately gets sniped out. Never mind. Hedwig just getting into the back, and I see a lot of Nordic back there. 5, 6, 7 at the very least. 4, 6, 7 now with Josh getting that TC in 5th. Gets redded out by Hedwig. Hedwig is able to get back up into 5th. Let's see if there's an ultra attempt. He goes for it and unfortunately fails it and gets a pretty big bonk as well. That's a lot of time lost. We do see AZ and Innostar getting in front of him as well. I do think Nago is currently in last though, so Asia should be able to get a pretty decent chance at a shock. Let's switch POVs towards someone more in the mid pack here, towards Arvo. We do see Nordic in 3-4-5, Asia in top 2 with Fire and MHS. The Vehement duo that we were talking about earlier in the pre-match. Nordic are pretty much going to need a really big snipe or a power blue or any power item really. I don't think that the red is going to connect. At this point, Asia can pretty securely just block Ultra and try and just keep their lead going through some backs. Arvo might try something with those triple greens. Does not have quite the angle on it. Loses a bit of time. Careful not to hit your teammate out in 4th. Should be greens thrown in this straightaway, I believe. No, not wanting to take any chances. Maybe shock being pulled already. We do see we do see both backers still going backwards, but Wexos is not respawning. I wonder if he possibly has already. I'm not exactly sure. Never mind, just respawned. So no shock so far. We do see Nago chaining into the 10th on the minimap there. Not exactly sure who just got, but we saw on our other POV blue being thrown at MHS. But with that back onto Arvo, I'm not sure if he can even get up there. And MHS actually had a shroom, so that blue is going to be dodged. Asia just have that top 2 for free now. Arvo does get the unblock. Let's switch to Hedwig really quickly to see that ultra attempt, and unfortunately, it is another fail on the Daisy side. You had to try it, but Asia now in such a good spot. That's top 4 on their side, if I'm not mistaken. Josh and AZN were just able to catch back up, possibly with one of them taking the ultra. Not exactly certain. We do not have the POV on them for now, but right when Nordic were starting to get ahead with that top 2-4, immediate top 4 on the side of Asia, and without any shocks to speak of. Shock will be used by Nago post-race, so he did have, and I assume just held for the sake of their top 2 with AZN and Josh just able to get back up there. Unfortunately, we did switch the POVs right when Arvo got passed. Not exactly sure if an Ultra was to blame, but immediate response from Asia, now top 4, and getting back into the lead by a fairly convincing amount. Should be up around around 10, around 11 to 13, if I'm not mistaken, depending on who got the bagger point. Unfortunately, lost that little detail. But regardless, Asia's response swift and efficient. I did say that they should get going before the end of the GP, and they got to it before the end of the third race even. So quite a good start from them. Should be able to keep that momentum going if they get something like a TF pick. But on the side of Nordic, we need something to catch up on. And yeah, TF is going to get chosen. The classic top 4 pick at high level. That draft is nothing to scoff at for that free top 2, denying the boxes at the start. Nordic have quite the work ahead of them. They pretty much need that 4-track pick in a row, unless they can get some really strong snipes going at the start of Toast Factory, which we have seen before in this very World Cup. But no, Nordic is just going to be favored when it comes to track picks, and DS Peach Gardens is going to be taken. Thankfully for Nordic, the top spot's not mattering as much on this. Any shrooms at the start of the race can definitely impact the pack a lot. We're probably going to see at the very least 2 members of Asia deciding to bag there. We do see Fire, MHS bagging, no shroom on the side of Arvo, trying to side red Josh. Fire getting the TC, taking the cut, but unfortunately not able to pass it so far. We did see Fire, we did see, sorry, not Fire. We did see another Asia member, AZN, taking the cut. So Asia, even with that little unfortunate TC, Fire was able to slow down the rest of Nordic enough for Josh and AZN to break into that top 2, and I wouldn't be surprised if AZN has more shrooms. Maybe even both of them have more shrooms already. Let's switch over to Hedwig here, as they possibly trying to hit them out of that top 2. That red could do, but I don't think it's going to quite reach. There's just so much distance on the side of Josh. Uh, let's hope that he can take the cut. None of them do, actually. None of the top 2 take the cut, so that red might connect. Nice nan on the side of Josh, connecting onto Hedwig, and we did see Harvo take the cut as well. Let's switch onto him in that second place there. Can have a bit of a 1v1 on his side versus AZN. Did manage to back out not Fire, did manage to back out Josh to stay clear in that top 2. Oh, my mistake, actually, was, sorry, Josh backing out Arvo in order to secure that top 2 overall, and getting a shroom in second. So I'm fairly certain that Asia should be able to just keep that top 2, given the distance that they have over Arvo after that Nana. Let's switch over to someone else in the mid pack, possibly just trying to. Yeah, that top 2 is just gone. After that cut from Josh, there's pretty much no chance of Nordic catching up. Hero Bomb attempt, let's see if it connects on anyone. It might have just connected on the bagger if that was just not a chomp. But yeah, Nordic in pretty tough spots right now. We do need a shock. If anything, we do see a bagger hiding around the turn there. So it might just be an Asia shock. I wouldn't be surprised to see MHS dodge at the end, given how long the shock is taking to be used right now. Hedwig staying in third so far. We do see Lonnie in fourth, Fire in fifth. Any items, any late items, we do see a bomb being thrown, but it's not going to connect. Fire should stay into fifth. Shock being used late. Let's switch over to Arvo's POV. Maybe someone passing at the end there. No, it is simply a late shock being used for the hell of it by the baggers. But that is top 258 on the side of Asia. Once again, a pretty good race on their end, and just able to really keep that lead going after that first BCW race. As expected, 2 winning races so far in either team, but Asia have just had the more dominant showing thus far, and have not even needed a shock really to cement themselves as the leaders of this war right now. So Asia should be up around around possibly 15-20 going into this next GP. I do believe it is by 20 on the dot. So hopefully they'll be able to keep that lead going into the next 2 GPs to secure that first seed out of the play-in spot. But Nordic, they're gonna have to wake up really quickly if they don't want the momentum to swing out of control. They got 4 track picks, and they're losing coming out of GP1, even with that BCW pick, even with that Peach Gardens pick. Both of those races were won handily on the side of Asia through just better item play, able to get up in the front early on both tracks and just stay up there, heading out whoever dares get close. And let's see here. The lone of not the lone, two members of Nordic picking Mushroom Gorge, possibly our first one of the World Cup. I'm not exactly certain. I'll have I'm really certain it's at least the first or second. It's quite a rare pick, mostly just chosen either in Mogi or for very specific teams. Arvo immediately getting a draft up there, but no item to speak of. So pretty vulnerable against AZN or Josh if they manage to get a good double back going. Josh does try and back, but goes through Arvo. Any shrooms to speak of so far? No, just a single red. Josh is going to be able to stay in the front. A small nan on the side of AZN does not connect. We'll have to see going left side. You're praying for a shroom here. You're praying for anything to try and break that top 2 that could very easily be done by the ones in the back. Will that red be thrown? It will, but MHS taking the cut as well. The only cut taker so far. Theo gets into a golden right behind him, so we'll be able to contest that Asian top 3. Now Asia top 2-4. Nice back by Theo. Gets Orvo up into 4th now. MHS, I don't believe has any more shrooms. We saw him take the starting cut at the start of lap 2, so either has one last shroom for that cut or a potential blue, or simply had a golden and just wanted to get as far away as possible. Unfortunately, Arvo doesn't make the roulette go far enough to get the cut. MHS did go around, so either has one shroom or none at all. We did see Lonnie and Josh both taking the cut as well. Josh taking the starting cut following his Asian teammate. Both baggers still going backwards. Shouldn't be a shock just yet. Josh still has a shroom in 3rd, right behind Lonnie. So should be able to get into the cut at the end. But Lonnie, I don't think is chaining any items, so very well could have... Never mind. That green being trailed shows that he has no shrooms to speak of. Josh confident enough to shroom ahead of it, not wanting to waste any time in case a shock is pulled. But I do believe both baggers are still going backwards at this rate, so it should be a shockless Mushroom Gorge, and that's great for Asia so far. Nice red onto Josh there, and 2 cut takers, including Hedwig. We do see a lot of Asia in the back, actually. It could very well be a good race for Nordic after all of that. Is at the very least 5, 6, 8 on the side of Asia, so should be it is a winning race on the side of Nordic even after all of that. MHS just getting into the front and staying in it, but his teammates not able to follow, not able to take the cut at the end there. Josh, unfortunately, shrooming ahead and getting hard punished for it by those double reds of Lonnie. Nordic does get the 2, 3, 4, 7 out of its small winning race, but given how that race started, you can definitely get a sigh of relief out of everyone taking that cut at the end of lap 3. But yeah, just uncharacteristic. I wouldn't call that a mistake necessarily, because it does shake up Lonnie a little bit, but it does put Josh in a more vulnerable spot, not able to really react or defend himself against those double reds. Possibly expecting a shock late, and just didn't want to risk losing his shroom to someone on the enemy team. But yeah, unfortunately, it just comes back to bite him. So Nordic able to get a +5 winning race, trying to claw their way back into the lead. Still cutting the lead down to 15. A pretty decent cushion on the side of Asia, but unfortunately nowhere near enough to secure their win so far. Gotta remember, for those that are not familiar with the competitive scene of this game, top 4-9, which is the best race you can get without a null run, is +31. So a single race can definitely still turn things around, and we have seen it already with that BCW race. So Asia can't get too comfortable just yet, and DK Jungle Parkway is going to be picked, definitely favoring the Daisy on the side of Nordic. Once again, a pretty not a very conventional track pick, but considering that they have a Daisy and Asia doesn't, they are slightly more favored towards it, though it is just barely. We'll have to see if MHS can stay in the front there. Josh gets the draft up. gets the item out in time, manages to support his teammate in that 1-3, but Daisy's Tire Drift trying to get ahead of Josh, thankfully muscling ahead of the DZ so far and getting a pretty bad turn out of the cannon as well. Gets his box stolen by AZN. Asia are all in the front right now. Arvo gets a magnificent snipe onto MHS, gets into first because of it. But he has a lot of work to do, a lot of Asia behind him. Gets the back on AZN as well. Great sequence from Arvo and allows Hedwig to get into second. But Hedwig does get hit out right after, so he'll be alone in the front so far. Let's switch to our POV so far. Hedwig, right after getting hit out, does get the triple shrooms, but that POW makes him lose so much time. Let's switch POVs again. I do not believe it is worth to hold on to Hedwig so far. Josh in the mid pack. Asia in 4-5 so far. Nordic in every top spot after that huge end play by Arvo. Fire does get backed out by Lonnie. That is top 3 on the side of Nordic and should stay going so far. Both baggers still going backwards. Shouldn't be any shocks so far. Shocks extremely impactful on this track, as we all know that cannon can absolutely turn a race around if it used correctly, but Nordic so far just have so much of a break. Blue is thrown, but I don't believe it's going to be enough. It does hit out a member of Nordic in the front, but they have such a lead so far that it shouldn't really matter too much. Josh pulls a TC. AZN Omega should be able to do quite the damage in the mid pack. Possibly AZN gets into second. Josh tries to hit out Theo, who got hit by the blue, and he does connect with that. So Asia now, thankfully, with that double pull, is able to get into a pretty decent spot afterwards. And let's see here. Will there be a shock? There is. Dodges AZN, Musty, and Josh. It does dodge Lonnie as well, but it's probably not going to be enough so far. Blue immediately thrown onto AZN. Lonnie shrooms up into second. A lot of chaos going on in the mid pack so far. Red being thrown at MHS. It does connect. Lonnie gets into first, but as we know, Josh has 2 shrooms. So if Lonnie doesn't manage to back him out right away, Josh should be able to secure first with that ending cut. He does have AZN right behind him as well. A lot of chaos going on so far. Shroom is being used, should get into first. Bit of slowdown there, hits the wall, but it should be enough. Arvo gets into third here. Lonnie in second. Unfortunately, we did not have many eyes on the mid pack, but Josh barely squeezing out that first place with the 2 shrooms he held, thanks to the cannon dodge. We did mention that being quite the impactful shot, just allowing Josh to keep that really powerful item at the end of the race. And even with the little wall bonk, still enough to keep first. We do know that Nordic got 2-3 at the very least, so not that bad of a race on their side. Unfortunately, a lot of Asia getting hit out afterwards, but once again, that is 2-3-4 on the side of Nordic. Winning race on their side, even with that cannon dodge on the side of Asia. Just a lot of people getting hit out. ASEAN and MHS both getting hit out after the cannon, and Nordic just able to keep their lead. That should be another small chip at Asia's lead, should be another 5 points or so. And considering that we're barely at the halfway point of the war, you definitely have the time to hold on to that, to just keep chipping away race by race. We know that Asia is capable of those big races, but if Nordic just keeps going at it, then they should be able to win in the end. But nothing is certain in Mario Kart, so we'll have to see how long they can manage to keep that rhythm up. Grumble Volcano chosen on the side of Asia as expected with those mid to low spots. BC3 could also be a pretty decent pick on the side of Nordic, possibly blocking the cut in first. A lot of options being allowed with an unblock later, and BC3 is going to get chosen. I have to wonder if Nordic got every single track pick so far. It definitely feels like it. That's for certain. At the very least, most of them so far. Definitely being favored on that front, but doesn't mean anything. They can't prove it on the racetrack. Let's follow Arvo really quickly. I do believe that actually first immediately gets outlined. Josh actually muscles back into first, trails a member of Nordic out, was possibly Theodore. So Arvo is going to have a lot of work to do in second place, but we know what he's capable of after that double hit on DKJP. Snipe being thrown out onto Josh. It is not going to connect, but he does unblock the cut for pretty much anyone really on both sides. And a lot of cut takers so far. We do see Hedwig taking Ultra, 3 people taking the Shroom cut, so Arvo now up into 6. Let's switch POVs really quickly. Let's get up to Hedwig here. Josh right in front of him. Does steal the box as well. could possibly hit him out really quickly. We do know that another member of Asia is in the front as well in the form of Josh, but not exactly sure who else is up there, how it's going to be used after the boxes, but unfortunately a ground red hidden within the boxes hits out Hedwig, gets triple greens, unfortunately not enough, but we do see, thanks to that bend, we do see that Asia are in 1-3-4 so far with MHS in third and ASEAN into first. ASEAN goes for the ultra, MHS goes for the cut. Unfortunately, MHS does fall, but Josh dodges in a mega with that respawn dodge, so it should be a pretty secure. Well, actually, never mind. Lonnie gets into first here, not exactly possibly a failed ultra and a failed cut on the side of Asia, forcing that shock to try and salvage the situation. Josh does get into first thanks to it, but now has quite a bit of work to do. ASEAN, we do see ASEAN into third as well, but Lonnie, actually, I do believe ASEAN managed to hit out Lonnie there, so ASEAN gets up into second. So top two on the side of Asia, possibly block on the cut there. We do see both baggers pretty much sitting here. I'm not exactly sure not exactly certain what's going on so far with the baggers. I do not believe that anyone has just yet. And unfortunately, no blocks on the side of Asia. ASEAN maybe through switch POVs onto someone on the cut really quickly. Want to see what goes on in that mid pack. And Hedwig fails the ultra, unfortunately. So that means that one potential member of Nordic doesn't manage to to break into that top two. I do believe that ASEAN managed to block the cut in some way. So Asia now gone into top two, and I do believe they're in third as well. I do see Fire into that third place. NDC in 4, 5, 6. So right as we mentioned, oh, unfortunate on the side of it, unfortunate little TK there, but Musty, the MHS does get into seventh here, should stay in seventh, not beating Theo. But right as we mentioned, Nordic trying to chip away at that lead, 5 points by 5 points. Right after that, Asia just gets another huge race. A top 3-7 should be a win by around 15, or at the very least, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that shock was definitely not. I would assume that was not the intended. Both MHS and I believe it was AZN, failing ultra, failing cut and ultra respectively. Josh thankfully able to get that mega dodge to stay into first place, allowing them to keep some sort of frontal presence. But Lonnie head out by AZN on the straightaway out of lap 2 as well, and they just stayed ahead the entire time. I do assume that there was a nano block or something along those lines by AZN to prevent Nordic from catching up with that cut. We know how much that cut saves. If anyone's curious, just check out the shortcut category. But in all seriousness, we do know how much time it saves, and given the fact that they were so far ahead, I do assume that no one from Nordic was able to take that cut. And Hedwig, unfortunately, failing the ultra as well, so not able to break that top two in any way. We do see a DKS, and I do believe that is Delfino Square, and Asia, finally, it feels, finally get a pick with that top three. DK Summit, quite the strong running track. Just overall, not much to gain off a shroom aside from the starting cut, and that double can very easily be blocked in some ways to prevent anyone else from just going off into the top spots there. We do see Arvo banging a little bit in 8th there. For not exactly sure how intended that was, given the fact that he didn't get any form of startup boost. We should probably switch to someone in the front or the mid pack here, as we do see Hedwig taking the cut. Asia in pretty much in 2-4-5, would I have to assume. A lot of people taking the cut there. We do see Josh making it. We see Theo making it. I do believe we see someone failing it as well, but so far, top four really close together. Josh and AZN into 2-3. A lot of items being thrown at Theo. None of them are going to connect. That green was quite close, but thankfully, Headway manages to avoid it. That is 1-3 on the side of Nordic. I would assume probably just shroomed up and kept that lead so far thanks to a clean double. Headway gets bumped a little bit by what I have to assume was AZN indeed. Lonnie shrooming up as well. So now, from Asia starting in top 3, Nordic in really good spots here in 1-3-4. A lot of people dodging the double, and unfortunately, Hedwig gets a little bit of a bounce on that first lip, gonna fall off. We do switch our POV to Josh there, but that means a big that just means a member of Nordic unfortunately falls into the bottom half of the pack, and now Asia have so much more control over this race. Theo gets hit out, so that at the very least 2-3-5 on the side of Nordic. We do see a lot of people slowing. You would have to assume a Nordic shock comes here. There it is. I think pretty much every single member of Nordic dodges there. It's going to be up to Josh to stay back up in the front. MHS dodges that red, able to stay up there. Lonnie shrooming up, the only member of his team in the top 3 from what we've seen so far. Josh still has one more shroom to potentially catch up at the end. Gonna have to take the double, use it to shroom for it. He's gonna collide with the wall, loses a lot of time, and Lonnie just stays in the front regardless. Hedwig has to muscle a little bit. But we do see MHS going up as well. Should be 2-3-4 maybe if Hedwig doesn't manage to muscle ahead of Josh. And frankly, given the lag of that last section, I'm not quite sure if he managed to do it. But overall, quite the close packs. Unfortunate for Josh. Forced to shroom to take that double, but collides with the wall. Loses so much time because of it. And Lonnie is just able to keep that top spot unless he got brutally outlined at the end of that lap 3, which unfortunately, given the lag, we're not quite sure yet. We'll have to see. But either way, quite the race from both teams. The quadruple dodge on the side of Asia, but on the side of Nordic. But no, MHS does outline Lonnie in the end, so there's 1-4-5-7 on the side of Asia. Even with that quadruple dodge on the side of Nordic, does get a winning race in the end thanks to MHS. I would possibly shrooming up. I'm frankly not quite certain. We did see Lonnie was ahead going into the half pipe, so I would have to assume just some form of outlining at the last turn. We know how much time you can lose if you take that last half pipe poorly, and unfortunately for Lonnie, MHS does get into first, and that is another winning race on the side of Asia, who should now be breaking, possibly be breaking into the 31 threshold. They indeed are. They break into the 31 threshold, so they're now guaranteed to, at the very least, go into the next race with a tie or winning, which is pretty big to hold within when you're on the verge of a 3-0. Holding that lead is going to be really important going into those last 4 races as RBC is picked. We know possibly one of the strongest drafting tracks in the game at the start there. If Fourth is able to draft one, I would not be surprised if Asia can just keep the momentum going for the rest of this war. We do see we're going to see Orvo trying to draft Hedwig there, but we do see the drafts coming out. But unfortunately, bumps coming out on the side of Asia. So Nordic now in 2-3-4, and ASEAN is the only one in the front there. Nice back by ASEAN, gets Lonnie, and MHS does bump out Orvo as well. So Asia immediately back into the front after that small blunder. Josh is the only one in the back so far. We do see 5, 6, 8 on the side of Nordic, but that golden should allow Orvo to at least break into that top 4. Golden's early. Josh does get backed out here. Not exactly sure by who, possibly by Hedwig. But Hedwig immediately gets backed out by MHS as well. Arvo tries to shroom off Josh, but unfortunately it's not enough. And Asia is still in top 3. Arvo is going to have to get some good snipes going. But that shroom can also do the trick. Probably not going to risk the rail. They're probably going to get blocked by MHS with those triple nanas. And immediately sniped out onto that straightaway. So Arvo had a chance to break into the top 2, not going to do any of it. Hedwig had to use Bill to get back up from a pretty big deficit. Our POVs, unfortunately, all in bottom 3. Arvo holding that star for now. We'll have to see if both baggers choose to respawn here. If anyone has the shock already, Hedwig does get hit out. The first bagger does respawn. Does the second one do as well? No, someone has shock. One of the baggers has shock. Whoever's in 9th. Unfortunately, we're not quite certain just yet. Possibly Wexos, given how much Arvo is holding onto that star. Nago did just respawn, so it is Wexos holding that shock. So that star is going to be really big on the side of Arvo, getting a small draft onto Theo, but chooses to space. Green bouncing a little bit, not going to connect onto anyone so far. All of our POVs still in bottom 3. Unfortunately, you would have to assume it is MHS and Fire into not Fire, sorry. You would have to assume it is MHS and another member of Asia in that top 2 so far. It should stay that way until that shock is called. We do see on our other POV as well, Hedwig is holding another star, so it should be a double dodge at the very least for Nordic the moment that's called. But no! What? Not exactly sure what happened. Maybe a miscall of some kind, but Hedwig dodges, but not Arvo. So unfortunately, that's a lot of time being lost, and Theo does dodge in a Mega as well. So Nordic still in top 2, could have been top 3 with that triple dodge, but we do see on our other POV, let's switch away really quickly. Arvo did pull a Bill in 8th, so not too unhappy about that. We do see Asia in 6, 7, and 5, 6, 7, 4, 6, 4, 5, 6 now that Theo has been backed out. Bill's going to be used early, going to try and break away here. Got to keep careful. That Bill drop can be dreadful. Shock is called late. Not exactly sure if that really impacts anyone or if that was spammed. Green is up, but no. Nordic gets their get back. That is top 3, taking revenge onto that DKS race. Thanks to that shock. Really unfortunate for Arvo not dodging there. I would have to assume there's been some miscalling, possibly Theo forced an Omega in the mid spots or anything along those lines, just for forcing an early shock and Arvo not being prepared for it. But either way, Bill allows him to get back into 3rd even with that late shock. The green not connecting, so that's top 3-8 on the side of the Nordic. Finally able to get at least a little bit of a reprieve, gets back into the 19-point range. Not enough just yet, but it is at the very least a good start to that last GP, given what you had to come up against. But yeah, so far, I'll have to say both teams once again clearly showing promise, but Nordic, a lot of their big races seem to come out of shock usage or in some way. Otherwise, it's just small chips. Whereas Asia was able to get really big races during the first few during the first 2 GPs, even without shock. So Wexos is going to have quite a bit of work cut out for him. They want to get back into this match, though they have started nicely. And that DK Mountain pick, if it does get chosen, should be able to allow them to keep those top spots. We do know that Hedwig is in 2nd, and we know how powerful Daisy is on DK Mountain, possibly the strongest Daisy RT if the BCW Ultra is not taken into account. A lot of sharp turns, a lot of time that you lose on Funky, but no, Asia able to get another pick there with Sherbet Land. Definitely what you need after a top 3 on the side of Nordic. But yeah, now Nordic in a pretty tough spot here in top 3 on RSL. Any amount of shrooms, especially a golden, can just guarantee you first for at the very least the end of the first lap. Arvo does wait to get into 4th here. Red immediately thrown out at AZN, blocks it, but we know that second one is going to connect. MHS throws an N at Theo, it does connect. The second one is going to be used to block Arvo's red, and now MHS up into 1st, gets a good trail to Theo as well, and Arvo hits the Penguins. So now Asia into 1-3. Great play by MHS, but gets immediately bombed out by Lonnie right as I say that. So now 1-3. Never mind, 1-4 on the side of Nordic. Great back from Vire. Allows his teammate to get up into 3rd, but a blue as well thrown out at the 40-second mark onto Lonnie. And that TC as well is probably going to be past Lonnie as well. A good TC battle there. We do the TC does ignore the ice physics of Sherbet Land, but Lonnie should eat that TC regardless. MHS had to lose a lot of time for it, but allows his teammates to get up into that top 2. Arvo does get triple shrooms, should gain a lot of time on his end there, possibly hit him out with whatever that third place box give him. Only a green, but it is going to be, and never mind, it's not going to be enough. AZN gets the front red on him really close on both of those screens. So now Asia in that top 3, another blue thrown before the end of lap 2, going to connect onto Fire. I believe it does. But interesting little tidbit on the side of Nordic. 2 dodges. We use Hedwig has a star on his POV. Arvo has a mega on his. Where is? I do wonder where our last POV is. Possibly holding that last dodge here. Red is going to be dodged by Arvo. Hedwig used his star early. Interesting. Was possibly forced into it. Arvo choosing to hold it for now. Josh shrooms up. Gets a TC. Could possibly pass it to Arvo. It could be big. They're losing their last dodge. Mega is going to be used. I don't know if any baggers have shock. One of them stopped and is going forward. One of the baggers definitely has shock. We'll have to see if it's Wexos once again. Double back by Hedwig there. Huge play. Gets 2 members of Asia out. And I do believe that's top 4, at the very least 1-3-4 on the side of Nordic. AZN gonna have to hold down the front into 2nd place. Shock is being used late. I would have to assume it is I would have to assume it is an Asia shock, but unfortunately Arvo not gonna get caught up with that mega pull, and Lonnie gets into 5th as well. That is 1-3-4-5 on the side of Nordic. Gigantic race, massive double back on the side of Hedwig. Props to him on that green back in the cave. Gets both MHS and I do believe it was Fire. Gets 2 members of Asia and just allows an easy 1-3-4-5 on the side of Nordic. And now it's a close game, ladies and gentlemen. We're only up 2 for Asia going into the last 2 races. 1 point per race, that's all you need, and that's really all and that's pretty much all you can do. Given how close this war has been so far, it's been non-stop back and forth the entirety of that lap 1 and 2. Every time I spoke up about the team being in first and third, anything, it just immediately was blown out thanks to a blue, a back green, a bomb, anything along those lines. And I care to say, an explosive war so far. And I'm really excited to see what the finale looks like. And actually, it looks like backer points was wrong on our end. It seems so. Actually, Nordic, for what feels like forever, ever since race 2, finally back in the front. So now they have the momentum going. That DK Mountain pick once again could be massive on their side. Grumble Volcano could definitely halt their momentum if more than one person on Asia takes the rock hop more than one lap. We'll have to see. You have to assume Nordic is in bated breath there, but Grumble Volcano is going to be chosen. Asia chaining track picks the same way Nordic was really at the first half of the war. It's only fair after all. So Grumble Volcano will be chosen, and you would have to assume that at the very least Arvo and Lonnie will have to back here a little bit. You need Shrooms. This is not a negotiable, or Shrooms a star, any speed item to just get back into the front here with that rock cut. Red does skip Arvo, but does not connect onto AZN either. Thankfully for MHS, Fib is not what you want here. Mega is used on the side of Josh, but it's not going to connect. Good back by Theo, and now Arvo has a Shroom into second, should be able to get up there. But pretty good. So it gets the cut. Josh falls right behind him, falls in a golden actually, and is able to get into first. Should be able to stay that way for the rest of this race. Let's switch POVs a little bit. Should stay pretty stale in the front so far, possibly up to Hedwig in the mid pack there, having just used up a golden. We do see a lot of Nordic in the mid pack there. 2, 4, 5, 6. So have a pretty decent spot so far, but we do know how much that can change on Grumble Volcano. Box 7 for Hedwig does pull triple shrooms once again, able to get back into that mid pack. And that Nana, barely doesn't get him off. Thankfully, we get another shroom to take that cut. Fire bumps it a little bit. Nice back greens onto Hedwig there. I'm not even, I think that was a Nordic member. Actually, that was possibly a Nordic member backing their teammate out. But we do see MHS Fire into 5, 6, and 8. Last member of Asia in 8th. Mega being pulled on the side of Hedwig thankfully breaks that red. No schlagging. I'm admittedly surprised to not see any schlagging so far. A bit of it with those reds. Well, we see another shroom being pulled on the side of Hedwig. Unfortunately, no. His luck has run out. A blooper is the one being pulled, and let's see how many people take the cut. Star is going to be used. The cut is not taken on the side of Hedwig. I'm admittedly surprised to see why it chains into a Mega right after, possibly hoping for another chain at the end, but it's not going to be enough. We see a lot of Asia in the mid spots there. Blue connects afterwards. But I do believe that's just another good race on the side of Nordic. We saw Asia in 5, 6, 8, so unless Asia got into first there, Nordic should have a pretty big break going into this last leg of the war, last race of the war even. We'll have to see the end results. Not exactly certain onto who got. We do know that Arvo kept second. That is certain. Not sure if Josh kept first. He did. So that is 2, 3, 4. Thankfully for Asia, Josh after that golden cut is able to keep first, able to keep them above the water for the end of that war. But now they need to win that last race by over 10 possibly. I do believe it is around 10, 5 actually, never mind, less of a winning race than I figured, so thankfully for Asia, you definitely that is more than capable for one race. Nordic, after all, have been doing that the entirety of mid-war, just getting those 5-point chips. And I do believe that if we do go to if we do get a tie, we'll most likely see a tiebreaker GP between those two teams. We'll have to see how that goes. That last pick could definitely be pretty impactful, and it is everything KC. So we already know what we're gonna pick. Both teams choosing KC. Once pretty comfortable in any spot, really. One of those tracks that you see no matter what spot you're in, whether that's 2-3 or just 1-5-6. And I can't think of anything more fitting to finish off a war. We've seen many big wars finish on this, and Asia's dominance throughout the Plains stage could very well end here, or their legacy in the Plains could keep going so far. We'll have to see Josh. Gotta keep an eye on Josh in the front here. Arvo gets a shroom immediately. If Josh doesn't get a shroom, and I do not believe he does, Arvo should be able to get into that first place here. Red is not gonna connect. It does actually. Never mind. Uh, I have to assume Josh missed the set there for somehow. So now Nordic up into top 2 immediately, or at the very least should be. Let's switch POVs to someone in the mid pack. Thank you. Headway gets into 5th here. We do see Lonnie in 2nd as well. Top 2-4 on the side of Nordic, and Hedwig has the perfect items to schlag with double reds and bomb, but it seems like we're getting greedy. We want hit to hit out AZN in 3rd as much as possible. First red seems to break, 2nd one connects, bomb right after AZN. I do not believe the bomb connected onto AZN actually, but that ground star should be more than enough for Hedwig to stay into that top 3. Lonnie got passed by an Asia member. It seemed that power is not going to connect onto Hedwig, able to keep that red backstep. Unfortunately, misses the Shroomba. No, that top 2 is now gone onto the side of Nordic, but a great back by Arvo connecting onto fire, getting keeping Nordic into those top spots right before Josh takes the Golden Ultra, should get back up into the top spot that he had at the start of the race. Arvo is pretty much gone for now. Should probably change our POV to Hedwig into 3rd place here, see what's going on in the mid pack. Well, for once, all 3 of our POVs in the top 3 instead of the bottom 3. Can't really complain about that, folks. And both baggers still sitting at the set. Not sure if anyone has shock just yet. Hedwig should just be able to take cut there and gonna try and hit out Josh. But gotta remember, on the side of Asia, we need a big race. But on the side of Nordic, any winning race secures it pretty much. Shock is going to be used. That should have been Asia Shock. It is. MHS dodges in a bill. They're going to be able to catch up to Arvo. At the very least, catches up to his teammate. But Arvo going to have a lot of work to do to keep first here. Going to have to, thankfully, resizes in the stream, but lost a lot of time off of that. MHS is now in sniping distance, so any item that hits there is really huge on either side. We'll have to see. No backs on the waterfall so far. Arvo just gonna have to drive as fast as he can. I don't believe that MHS can hit him out so far. And never mind, there's no blue on the side of Nordic, and unfortunately hits the electricity, can't get the star. That blue is gonna connect. That is massive for Asia. That's top 2. That's we'll have to see that's mid spots, but that's no, that misplay by Arvo might have cost Nordic the war. That might have just cost Nordic the war. That I will have to see what mid spots are. I don't know. I just don't know. All of our spots were in the top. I'm not exactly sure who was in the mid pack in Asia. +9 race. That's all we need. Those are the most tense 30 seconds. Top 2, 5, 6. I do believe that's enough. 3, 5. That is enough. I do believe that is enough for Asia to get back into the lead right at the end. No. You hate to see it go like this, folks. You hate to see it go like this, but Asia wins the war by 6 points off of Arvo not getting that ground star because he hits the electricity. Oh no, oh my goodness, that is so unfortunate. Star did get dropped late, but it was definitely catch-upable for Arvo if that if that electricity was not connected. He stayed in first the entire race, but the blue comes late. And unfortunately, that's just enough. That is enough for Asia to get back in the front after all of that. The comeback that was mounting on the side of Nordic, getting those good races in 10 and 11. But unfortunately, it's not enough. Sometimes it's just not enough. One misplay can cause everything to fall down, as we see here, folks. And so I must congratulate Asia. Asia now now in 3-0 into play-ins, having won every match of theirs. This one definitely less commendably than the two others, but champions of the play-in stage, guaranteed first seed, and now Nordic are gonna have to play their second seed against Spain. The match now just gained a lot of. I will say though that's good for our storyline. The match of Nordic versus Spain does gain a lot of attention now, simply because it might just decide second seed. If Spain wins, they just have Lusophone left to play, and they are favored to win that match. So there's a very high chance that whoever wins the Nordic versus Spain match decides who is second seed. The only way that's not the case is if Spain wins the match versus Nordic, but loses the match versus Lusophone, in which case it will be decided by point differential, and in which case Nordic will be the one to move on. But yeah, you guys will just have to tune in to Nordic versus Spain. Now the match just got a whole lot more interesting, and we'll have to keep you updated on that. Overall, amazing match from both lineups. Unfortunate ending, but it has been an absolutely masterful match to watch on both sides. A lot of great plays, a lot of great snipes. Some unfortunate misplays, obviously, but at at the level of the World Cup, even if it's just playing, unfortunately, it's expected. But yeah, overall, an amazing match to watch, and I'm really glad to have been able to cast this match, and I'm really glad to have you guys watch it all throughout. So hopefully, we'll be able to keep you guys entertained throughout the rest of this Plains match before the groups are drawn. And yeah, so this was Scoped, signing out for Marco Central Wii, and I hope you guys have a great evening.